Pivot points MT5 indicator may not the strongest indicator of pivot point to display the pivot levels, but it is still for sure one of the strongest indicators of pivot point in MetaTrader 5. This version of the indicator may not have the accuracy of the indicator for MetaTrader 4, but it is definitely useful for displaying pivot point in MetaTrader 5. Now let us explain the pivot principles. Even if you are familiar with pivots, continue to read this post since you will discover and learn the things you may not have seen anywhere else. Even if you have seen, you have just ignored them. But if you wish to get the best results from pivot points, stay with us. What are pivot points? If the price of a currency pair or asset moves above the pivot area, then the result will be an upward trend, so we should look for the signals to buy the trend and ignore any signal for selling. If the price of a currency pair moves below the pivot point, then it indicates a downtrend. So we have to ignore the buy signals and look for the sell signals in the Forex market. In the strongest indicator for pivot points MT4, you will notice that 4 more levels are displayed, including S1 to S4 for support points and R1 to R4 for resistance points, which are very important and worthy. In the additional specified levels in the strongest indicator pivot points MT4, the trend may be reversed, and of course they can also confirm the continuation of the current market trend. Imagine that the price is falling and moving below the S1, so the downtrend is confirmed and indicate that the price is likely to continue to decline to S2. Formula to calculate pivot points. Of course, what you should note from the beginning is that you are using the strongest pivot points indicator for MetaTrader 4 or pivot points MT5 indicator for MetaTrader 5. You do not need to calculate these points manually, and the Forex indicator calculates it for you, but still, knowing this formula can be pleasing. In the formula above, high represents the highest price recorded in the previous day. Low represents the lowest price recorded in the previous day. Close indicates the price closed the day before. How to calculate pivot points? Well, knowing the above mentioned things, the question is, how do we calculate pivot points in our manual method? Again, we emphasize that pivot points MT4 indicator can be added to the chart. This indicator automatically calculates and displays these levels. But we here teach you how to manually calculate these points. All you need to do is to follow 4 steps. After the market closes or before it opens the next day, it is enough to find the high price, the low price, and the closing price. Now add these prices together and divide by 3 to reach the average. Mark the price obtained on the chart and insert P next to it, just as an example. Now it is enough to calculate the points S1 to S4. And done. Note that high and low in these calculations must be done according to the previous day. Draw them all on the chart and enjoy them. Traders, especially day traders, use pivot points a lot. If this morning is Tuesday, use the high, low, and closing price of Monday to get today's pivot points. Now we talk about how to calculate each of these levels. First, we need to calculate the pivot point, PP, that is in the middle of the other lines. Calculate the base pivot, PP below. You can see the formula for calculating the basic pivot point level. PP, pivot point equals, high plus low plus close. 3. Calculate pivots R1, R2, S1, S2. Now that we have learned how to calculate the pivot point, PP, we can calculate the pivot levels R1, R2, S1, S2 as follows. R1 equals 2 PP, low. R2 equals PP plus, high, low. S1 equals 2 PP, high. S2 equals PP, high, low. How to calculate pivot levels R3 and S3. R3 equals high plus 2, PP, low. S3 equals low, 2, high, PP. As you can see, in calculating all pivot levels, there is a basic pivot value, PP. This is because the basic pivot level is critical for all pivot points. Therefore, you need to be careful when calculating the basic pivot, PP, level. Hence, if you miscalculate this level, other calculations will also be not valid. We won't continue this calculations discussion anymore